Welcome. It's back to, we're on season 4, episode 5, and the greatest news of all time was announced this week. Pete Rose has been reinstated to the Major League Baseball. He's going to the Hall of Fame.
No, he's not necessarily going.
He's going to get in. He's reinstated.
He's going to be at the inductions
They have
ceremony.
to wait till the poor guy dies.
Well, it was a lifetime ban.
I don't care. That's such a dumb. That was so dumb. That's so dumb of Major League Baseball. We do some dumb shit at IMCA, but that's some really dumb shit.
And Shoeless Joe Jackson gets into.
I mean, Jim and I have talked about this because Jim's up on all this stuff too. But it doesn't make any sense to me that you ban the guy for life, but then you allow betting on baseball.
Yeah,
correct.
You
when they allowed betting on baseball,
you should have been able.
They should have put Pete Rose back in at that point in time instead of punishing the poor man for the rest of his life.
They still
and
can't
then
bet
he
on
dies.
but they can't bet on their own teams, though, can they? They still can't do that.
No. Was it? Who was it? Was it Alabama baseball coach got fired a couple years ago? When all of a sudden there's never been a bet on a college baseball game. And there was like $22,000 bet on Alabama.
But the thing of it is, Pete always
And it was the coach.
Yeah, he always bet to win.
Always
And
bet
all
to
his
win,
buddies.
Yeah, so it's not like he was throwing any games. He always bet to win.
Right.
So there was.
I get it.
There were a lot of times with the Reds, he was losing money.
The justification is there when they made the decision, but at the same time, things change. The guy's signing baseballs at the
Caesar's Palace
for the remaining days of his life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. He was arguably the best hitter ever.
Yeah.
In the game.
Yeah. But I think part of that was the fact that he was gambling so much is why he had to sign baseballs at Caesar's Palace.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Saying he wasn't good at it, huh?
No, he was not a good gambler, obviously.
He may have went to a couple of Kentucky Derbies in his lifetime, and that could have potentially been the reason why he has to sign baseballs for a living, because he lost his ass at the Kentucky Derby. I mean, that's always a possibility.
Did you lose your ass at the Kentucky Derby?
No, I came back. No,
I gave you the winners in the one race.
You did.
So did you win any money, or did you? I mean,
no.
How was the experience? Because we saw
fantastic.
We saw that
it was rainy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wasn't it sloppy?
It was a little rainy Friday and drizzly, and then it rained Saturday.
I can't believe you didn't take the jet dryer out there for Saturday.
Hey, you know what?
Like
my
spooning a wet dog or whatever.
if you're my wife's Facebook friend, you'll see all the shit she posts all the time.
She got to see Guy Fieri.
I don't post a lot of stuff. She posts all that stuff. She takes videos. She posts videos. She does all that shit. I don't do any of that stuff. I took the only video, if I went to my Kentucky Derby videos, I would bet you the only video that I have on my phone of the Kentucky Derby is of the 5 tractors that are prepping the racetrack in between races or in between, prior to the rain, and what they did before it started raining because we got there in the morning. There's a lot of things I learned about the Derby that I thought were really kind of cool.
They just need to get a tractor like Harlan has.
Right.
What's that deal called, Doug?
Well, that soil finisher?
Yeah, I mean, that's
that's a Kinsey soil finisher.
It takes about 10 minutes to prep your track.
Pretty close, maybe a little longer. Just depends on how much we got to do, but somewhere in that time frame, yeah.
That's pretty neat. Pretty neat.
To introduce our guest.
Yeah, we do have.
We're just gonna.
We
let him talk. They can figure out who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should by now.
He was actually out running traffic cones on 218 construction. We just pulled him in. Hey, we need a guest today.
Yeah. Pays better.
Doug Batz, promoter of Shelby County Speedway in Harlan.
It's nice to be here.
Yeah.
Doug, how many years you been doing it?
Well, I got to Harlan in 2014. That's when I started.
And I just want to be the first one to say it's great to finally have a promoter on the podcast.
Right.
Surely I'm not the first.
No, you're not the first. Yeah. Jim's just being a dick.
You're the first in studio.
Yeah, you are the.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All right.
No, you're following his lead. I'm just a groundskeeper. Just a groundskeeper.
I don't see you as a. I see you. You're a co-host now. You're not a promoter.
Oh, okay. So I'm like the co.
I kind of slipped my mind that you promote races.
Co-promoter.
We could talk about all kinds of fun stuff with Doug. Because Doug's been around the sport for a long time and been a promoter for. You made it past the average amount of years that most promoters last anymore.
No doubt.
And you're still smiling.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, Harlan since 2014.
Yeah. I what keeps me going, though, is I got a pretty good crowd that works with me. I got Gary Hopp and Ed Kaziski even helps out occasionally, you know, but it's my staff that we have there at the track that keeps things going, because you can't do it by yourself, and I would have been burned out a long time ago if I had to. So, and shortening the track helped us out an awful lot too.
When did you do that?
2022.
Tell us. To me, this is an interesting story. How do you arrive at that decision?
Well, I kind of backed out of promoting at that point because of the big track. It costs you a small fortune to maintain it, and we knew we had to do something different. And I just said, "Listen, guys, I told the fair board I'm not going to come back next year if we can't do something different, because I just wasn't going anywhere with it." And so Jay Burdick kind of come up and got involved with it, and then Gary Hopp kind of come in the picture, Ed Kaziski, the fair board, and we all sat down and kind of decided that something needed to be done. Well, then they kind of over the winter with Jay kind of come up with the third mile aspect, and they looked at a lot of other racetracks in the country and which ones were very successful and how they were designed, and that's kind of the direction that it went from there. And the fair board jumped on board. Jay worked with the fair board, and dirt work started immediately. So, and Gary did the dirt work through performance grading. And the thing that saved us the most is Gary had it built like you do a road. He had a company come in, and we'd put on so many inches, and they would measure it, determine what we needed for water, what we needed for compaction, and that's how it got built. So that's why when we started out right away with it, we didn't have a whole lot of problems with the track.
Yeah, I can't imagine what something like that cost. A lot, I imagine. You don't have to tell the security.
I do know, but it was expendy. It was spendy for the fair board.
Sure, it's an investment, obviously, in the facility. From I would imagine everybody looked at it from a long-term standpoint, that you were hoping that by shortening the facility that there would be better times ahead and longer times ahead, obviously, and it sure seems to be the case.
Well, we expected it to be that way, but believe me, when the news got out that we were shortening it, boy, that's a.
But are the same people bitching now that were bitching then?
Actually, no. A lot of them come back and says, we're going to eat some crow here because that track turned out far better than we ever thought it would. But a lot of those people looked at the legacy of Harlan with that big track, and that's what they hated to see go away.
Sure.
And, when you go back, there's the Donnie Allisons and a lot of those people that drove at that track years and years ago, and those people just didn't want to see that disappear. And but
Tiny Lund.
But that's where one of his first tracks he started at. In fact, when my dad and a neighbor raced together back in the late 50s, they actually come down to Harlan and run against Tiny Lund, back in those days. But times have to change, and I think with the racing the way it is, the big tracks are struggling a little bit. So,
yeah, I don't know how many, like if you statistically dirt tracks in the United States, how many are half a mile or larger? It's definitely a small percentage, and for sure within IMCA, it's a very small percentage of the facilities that we deal with.
We have 7.
Yeah, single digits.
Yeah, you look at, like in Iowa, just the fairgrounds facilities that don't race anymore, and they were always a half-mile racetrack because it went from horse racing to car racing, so everything was a half mile. Yeah. And then
look at Webster City.
So it's been one of those things to where you just Harlan had to adapt to the change, and I mean, I remember, like Doug said, the people just crucifying. Oh, I can't. You're gonna ruin it. You're gonna shut the doors. It revitalized it. I mean, because it was. I mean, I'd worked down there when Joe Ringsdorf and promoted it back in the 2000s, and Tom Gutowski and Buzz Patterson, announced down there, and it was one of those racetracks back in the day. I mean, it was great. You'd sing around there wide open around the top, but as everything evolved, that style of racing has kind of gone away. The big track stuff's gone away.
Well, and
Brett,
track.
What was your Harlan experience like, Brett?
I've told my Harlan story, haven't I? I left there in an ambulance one time.
No, I've not
I
heard
don't
this.
think you.
Yeah,
you told me.
at
You've
the
not told
Tiny
me.
Lund. Yeah. It was many years
Who
ago.
beat you up?
I about got hit by a race car that came off the backstretch back when it was a half mile, the big racetrack, and they had like a temporary pit set up along the backstretch there, and you kind of where you entered the track at the time.
Yeah, he came straight across and
Had some Jersey barriers kind of there and along the back over there, and I was on my 4-wheeler. I was sitting, kind of a couple cars in off the backstretch along that Jersey barrier. I was talking to Kevin Larkins. I'll never forget it, and we were just sitting there chatting. I was sitting on my 4-wheeler, and his eyes got big, and I was turned around, and there was it wasn't even a sanctioned division at the time. I think it was like a Pro-Am of some sort.
Pro-Am, yeah, they run
Camaros and
I think is what came off the racetrack, like right straight at me, and it hit that Jersey barrier right in front of me, and the Jersey barrier rolled over the top of my 4-wheeler, and I jumped off, but something hit my leg and cut my leg open, and I don't know. It's just like a flash. I saw my life flash before me, but I survived, and and I'm like, oh man, I don't think I'm ever gonna. It gave me a new appreciation for turning your back to the racetrack. To be quite honest, I go to a lot of races, and rarely do I turn my back to the racetrack ever anymore. Just from that standpoint, you just can't predict what's gonna happen. No. But anyhow, yeah, I've been to Harlan a few times. Not since the track has been shortened though. Don't hold it against me, Doug.
No, we don't. You got to come over sometime. Jim comes up every couple.
He
I
does.
don't know. Yeah,
We've
a couple
talked about
times a year, but
Jim lives so far from Harlan.
I
Yeah,
know
exactly.
that's a long drive.
Yes, it is. It would take Super Dave from Jim's house 14 days to get there, but Jim could be there in 14 minutes.
Lots of positive things have been said about Harlan that we've heard the last few years, and we've talked about it before in other podcasts without Doug, so we're just not kissing up to you, Doug. You're doing something right over there. Obviously, the decision to shorten the facility was the right one, as difficult as that may have been and all the shit you may have taken. But, man, you guys are doing some good things over there because nobody says anything bad,
Yeah, we're trying to establish ourselves. Every year I got a list a mile long of things that we got to continue to do, but we just run out of summer months a lot of time to get it done. But we take everything that we make and put it back in the track to try and improve it. And I can actually say that I don't ever make any money off the track, but what we do goes back into the track. So we just feel we're in a position with I-80 being gone and stuff that we can pick up a lot of territory over in western Iowa.
Yeah, and Harlan is always, the community has always supported the racing over there. I remember even back in the day, they'd have the Tiny Lund Festival during the Tiny Lund Memorial, and there was always so much going on uptown, and the racers would take cars up during the parade, and there was just a sense of it was a race in town, and it still has that feeling.
It still is, but with every generation that changes a little bit, and we're in the process of trying to get a little bit of a established type of museum type thing at the track. There's a ton of nostalgia, paperwork, and everything from that track from years ago. A lot of things even with Tiny Lund, but we just don't have a place to put it at this point. So once we get that done, then a lot of that can come back down there, and we can kind of keep track of the history of the track a little bit. History of the track has always been a little bit skewed. There's certain people that know a lot of things, and there's certain people that know some things.
Yeah.
But we just got to get them together so that we can get everything down. Because, like I say, there's a lot of notoriety with certain drivers and everything that's been at that track over its history, and that's kind of where we're at right now, trying to get that so people can see it.
Yeah, there's a lot of history. When you look at this, in the 50s, the IMCA stuff, Ernie Durr and Johnny Beaucamp and Tiny, guys that went on to run NASCAR, raced at Harlan. And then you look at the old, the Cornhusker series where they would run, the late models in the 70s. You go back and look at any kind of old articles, and it's like, wow, this was a place. And then, because did it shut down for a little bit, like in the 80s?
I believe it did. I wasn't involved with it at that point. I think after Tom left, I think Tom was the last one that was there. Then the Shelby County Racers Association, which made up of, I don't know, I think you was even involved in it, weren't you, Brett, at that time?
I was, actually. Yeah.
I don't know how many people are in there, but it kind of it went good for a few years, and toward the end of it, things started changing a little bit, and so that's when myself and my wife at that time, and then we had Brett Pugh and his wife were the other set of partners, and then we had Denny and Mary Peterson that were part of the racing committee there at that time, and we were all three partners. And shortly after, I think the first year we run, I think Brett had to get out. He had some health issues. And then Denny and Mary stayed with me I think Denny and Mary's been out for about 5 years.
You talk about two great people that support
racing.
They have been huge supporters down there.
And to this day, when I go back to the track this afternoon, I can call Denny and he'll come in and do whatever it takes to make it work. And his son Dylan still races.
Yep.
But and Gary's boys race also. In fact, they got first and second Saturday night in the late models.
Yeah.
So, and Ed's boy, Cale, also comes up and races with us. So, plus his son-in-laws that are all come up. But it's, like I say, it's evolving. We're trying to make things better every year, and slow but sure we're getting it done. It just, sometimes you lose patience because you like to get stuff done overnight, but it doesn't work that way, so.
Yeah, lots of moving components, but at the end of the day too, there's a lot of history there. But the last 11 years or so, you've been doing an excellent job over there, Doug. I mean, our the IMCA program, our late model program, you've been supportive of our late model program for as long as I can remember. Yep. We're very appreciative of that. And when we think of Western Iowa and we think of IMCA sanctioned racetracks, Harlan is at the top of the list on the ones that have been supportive of our program across multiple divisions. So we're very appreciative of that. And places like Harlan are what define IMCA, in my opinion. When you look at the divisions you're running over there, the car counts you're getting, the history that we have as an association at the facility, there's just a lot of things that add up to being a lot of really cool things about racing, and it's really cool to be a part of that. I know all of us appreciate that very much.
And this is the 30th year that Shelby County sanctioned.
Is it 30th?
That
Okay.
first year was 96. This is
that's why we had you on today.
I guess it's 30 years.
Yeah. Happy anniversary.
That's my age, right, Jeb?
But the thing that impresses me as much as anything about Harlan, I get over there 2-3 times a year. Like I said, mainly because it's close and it's great racing. Is the cleanliness of the track. I mean, everything is maintained. But the things you have done over the years, adding grandstands in a couple years ago, even the little things, taking credit cards, doing all that stuff, you're doing what it takes to stay current with the times. And I think that really shows in both crowd, because the night I was there earlier this year, you had a fantastic crowd. And the car counts, obviously, what we see each and every week.
Well, you're right. But the credit cards, we had to, I'm old school, and I always grew up with a billfold full of cash. The young generation's not that way.
They're not.
They might have a few dollars in their billfold, but they show up and they want to run their card. So we realized we had to do something different. And so we just decided when we was going to do it everywhere. So tickets, pit passes, you buy a beer, you can use a credit card, and every year, and I probably, just a little story, I own an ATM machine that's there at the track. And I usually would put $2,000 in it average on weekly shows. Okay. Never run out unless we got the bigger SLMR shows or something like that. This year, I finally noticed that I'm lucky if I go through $200-$300 a night, because everything now is credit card.
Yeah.
I'm making it up on the credit card side, and we set it up so that when anybody uses a credit card, I don't get stuck the fee.
Yeah.
So, I've had no complaints about that.
Yeah, we hadn't either. You know,
yeah.
you put that percentage on there, like
Right.
most. But I think every business is doing it. A little restaurant there, just down the street from my house. If you pay cash, you get a discount. If you use a card, it's like a 3% fee.
Yeah.
So.
But
It's
I
crazy.
think it's all those little changes that you guys have done throughout the years to keep yourself current with the times. It's, like I said, paid off, and it's a great experience. You know what I mean? It's a well laid out track as far as concession stands to the grandstands. Easy to get to the grandstands from the pits. All those little things, I think, play a big part in success you guys are having at Harlan.
We're in this for the long haul, so we're going to do what it takes to make it work. I mean, we don't plan on being gone next year. I'm hoping that track is operating long after I'm gone, and we're trying to set that up for that because myself, Gary, Danny Peterson, all of us are senior citizens, I guess, if you want to get down to it, So I know there's going to have to be a younger generation that's going to come in sometime. We just don't know when that's going to happen, but we want it to be successful to stay when that happens.
Yeah,
so.
you strike me as one of those guys, Doug, that you want to leave something better than what you got it, and you again, we've all known you for a while now, and you've been that way since the day we've met you, and you look at like your streaming. That's what brings you to the building today. For people that are wondering why Doug drove all the way over here, he streams his events live on IMCA TV.
That's correct.
Through our streaming platform. So he's over here to hang out with Nate. Whoops, sorry, that's my computer. Yeah, I don't know why
Wasn't
Dave's
me.
calling.
Wasn't my computer.
Dave never calls me. But anyhow, so Doug come over to get his
all day.
to get his streaming equipment fixed. So again, there's just another example. We have some facilities that take the position that streaming is bad. The streaming is bad for them, and that they're not going to necessarily welcome it, I guess. I don't know if that's the best word, but you've taken advantage of the best offers that the platform has as a facility. Owns his own equipment, hires his own people, shoots his own show, does a lot of very positive things that I think is just demonstrates how you view things, maximize everything you possibly can.
Well, that's what we're trying to do to get the track to.
Yep.
But going back to the viewing deal, there's one thing I noticed with us. Granted, you lose some people that come to the stands, but when we get 90-degree weather and your elderly people, they won't come to the track. It's too hot. But I'm still getting something out of it on the viewing side. So they're not buying the food or the beer and everything, but yet I'm still getting something because they will watch the races.
Yeah, if only every race had absolutely perfect weather.
Yeah.
You imagine how much, I guess, less difficult this industry would be. But unfortunately, we're an outdoor industry where rain, cold weather, too hot of weather, humidity.
There's always perfect
It's
weather when
just
it's not race day.
always something. So I agree with you. I think that there's always going to be a circumstance why somebody can't attend an event in person. But at the end of the day, for them to miss it completely, I don't necessarily think that that's the best interest of the facility. If they can consume it in a convenient way, like the streaming is providing, I think it's the best of both worlds to a certain extent. And then you still have to rely on, like we've touched on, you have to rely on what the facility has to offer by being there, and dirt track racing. I mean, I obviously, Jerry, I was at your place a Tuesday night. We had a sanctioned modified and stock car race, and you also happen to have, we had late models as a supporting division for that night. But there is nothing like being at the racetrack. I don't care what anybody says. And I think every sport is like this. You can watch about anything you want on television, and it's not the same as being there live. I saw it with the Kentucky Derby. I've watched the Kentucky Derby for years and thought, that's kind of cool. But shit, you go there in person, it is different. It's an experience of a lifetime.
Yeah.
And going to racetracks is much of the same. It is much different than what you experience streaming. And when you're doing the right things, making it convenient for people to be there, making it convenient in every aspect that you can, it just facilitates them wanting to come when they can. And I think, like most true race fans, that's what happens. You know, we need people at these events. We can't have empty grandstands and streaming them. And I don't think that streaming is going to create a bunch of empty grandstands. But it definitely can supplement the grandparents that can't come, the people that live out of state that watch your race. You know, on our platform, you get the information who's watching, where they're from. You know, the people watch streaming from all over the United States of every racetrack. It's very interesting information.
That's what's great about IMCA TV to the tracks that do it. They get a list of the people that are watching the race. You can tell where your customers are viewing at, and you get emails. But the thing about even Doug that, you know, I notice when I go there, he takes that streaming that probably 50, 60% of our, more than that, 70, 80% of our tracks do. But he's got, I think, Doug, you got multiple cameras, don't you?
Yes.
Yes. You got a guy.
That's why he's here getting his equipment fixed.
Running the show.
Yeah.
He doesn't want a single camera anymore.
No,
he wants the good stuff.
Once again, it's the little things that you've made the investment in to provide a better show, more convenient for your customers. I just wish, you know, all promoters would take a page out of that and really focus on the convenience part.
But my thoughts are the more I do that, the more people I'm going to get.
Correct.
Either in the stands or at least viewing the race that night. And so I never have been kind of a, I don't know how I want to say it, a half-ass type deal. I mean, I want it 100%. And most of my employees will probably tell you the same thing, that comes race night, I'm a little hard to get along with once in a while. But I expect 100% out of everybody. And I got John does my, and Jess takes care of the pit shack, and John does all my concessions for me. I don't have to mess with it. They do it, they take care of it, and they know what to expect from me, and I know what to expect from them. And it just makes things go a lot smoother every Saturday night when that happens. So they even take care of hiring the employees for the concessions. I don't even have to mess with that. So, but that's what makes a track work, that type of a scenario. Yeah. I think you probably got the same thing over there at your track, Jerry. You know, I mean, you got to have certain key people you got to rely on, and so that gives me time to mess with the cameras and stuff. And I do have a guy that's employed, Josh, that's what he takes care of. He goes up in a little booth, and I guess you were there last year.
Yeah.
You probably seen where he sat in the corner
sitting over there talking for a little bit.
Yeah. And that's all he does, is control the camera. They got their own set of radios, and he tells them what to do. We're to the point where we're wanting to add more cameras now around the track, you know, because I see what we can do. I think we can just do better. That's why we're trying to do what we're doing. So
tell us a little bit about the upcoming schedule at Harlan this year then. So what's some highlights that you want to talk about?
Well, basically, I think, I believe next weekend Joe's going to be there for the Sunoco, for the late models.
Yep.
Joe Hayes, yep.
Yeah, and then naturally we have the Zeitner SLMR Memorial Race, which is in July, and then 2 days later we have the Lucas Oil, and then we have another SLMR race later on, and then in August 10th, I think that is, and then in September the 6th, which is the Saturday of the Super Nationals, we're going to have try and have a big show for the late models.
That'd be cool.
To see if what we can do for them guys, and because we're kind of, as a track, we got classes that are treated us well, but we dropped modifieds for 2025 just because of the car count. We just couldn't seem to get the car count. It's not that I have anything against modifieds, but I got people in the grandstands that don't want to see 5 or 6 modifieds.
Out there, that Western, you know, with you and Dennis and Alta, it's just the modified. It's weird, you know. The late model,
it's spotty.
It's spotty. But the late model, like you said, the late model program in Western Iowa, Eastern Nebraska has exploded in the last couple of years.
That is correct, and that's why Park Jefferson, Denison to a certain extent, are even trying to work with the late model program. That I guess would be our same drivers technically. Yeah. And to get into that, because I think they've kind of seen what the future is going to be, and for us is late models, and that's the direction that we're wanting to go.
For years, Harlan has been a traditionally late model track. I mean, going way, way back. And I think that plays into a lot of things. You got Eagle in Nebraska, which has always been a traditional sprint car track.
Correct.
And, geographically, I think you'll find tracks that have a niche. And sometimes it's hard to break that niche.
Yeah. To me, Harlan, for those that don't know Shelby County like we do, in Harlan, it is. I would identify it as, if you had to pick the division, it's a late model track. I mean, that's just kind of the way that we've always somewhat looked at it. Even though you're running modifieds, it's still kind of identified as a late model facility. That's just kind of the way we've ran weekly late models there for many years. You have a lot of SLMR specials. You've got the Lucas Oil stuff. Yeah. You're primarily most of your special events, whether they're sanctioned by us or not, they're late model directed for the most part. You don't run a lot of sprint car stuff over there, do you?
Just specials.
But not near as much sprint car stuff going on there.
No, we'll have maybe 3 sprint car races a year. But we could run more the race savers, but unfortunately, we run on Saturday just like Roger does. Yeah. So that kind of limits us on what we can do on the race saver side of it. But we do have them earlier in the season, and I think they'll probably be part of our Tiny Lund again this year. The race savers will be. So I don't know where the modifieds will be there or not for the Tiny Lund. It's, when we said we weren't going to run them, they all thought it was the end of the world, but yet they got to come race with us, and that wasn't happening. So, and I'm not saying that we won't have some modifieds there again. More than likely we will. It's just that it's going to be on specials.
Yeah, you got to look at that deal. People are always like, you're screwing the mods because there's not. No, it's a business decision.
It is
when you get 5 cars, and 5 cars is your top of your payout, and it's $2,000, and they only bring in $500 worth of pit passes. It's tough. And then, like you said, the crowd then is like, well, 5 mods again tonight, or 5.
But when I think of Harlan, sport compacts come to my mind.
Yeah. That I don't know what's happened there this year. That has really blowed up, and we had 30 last week, and I've already talked to 2 drivers so far this year, and I think we got maybe 4 more coming for this Saturday night.
But once again, that kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. So you're going to have in the mid-30s in sport compacts. Yes. Boone tried to run sport compacts a few years ago, couldn't get out of the double digits basically.
Yeah. Right, and sprint cars.
Like you're, and it's not like you're that far away from Boone, but it just makes such a big difference geographically. You look at independents getting 30-plus modifieds, but you go down the road just a little bit, and they'll get sport mods, but no modifieds. Where independents gets modifieds, but not a lot of sport mods.
Yeah, no 2 racetracks are the same. And you mentioned 3. Doug has mentioned Eagle, which we identify primarily as a sprint car track. They run other divisions there, but it's really the home of race saver sprint cars for us. It's where we have the race saver nationals at Eagle. It's a Saturday night racetrack not far from Harlan, I guess. It's like Boone. Boone's not far from Harlan either. These are all Saturday night facilities. They're all doing different things. You got Eagle running sprints. You got Harlan running late models.
Sport compacts.
And you got Boone that's not running either of those classes. It's primarily kind of known for modifieds. But they're all running the other classes. That's the other thing I want to mention. First off, when you get into like 5-6 car divisions, I don't care what class it is, it's in trouble when it's in 5 and 6 car range.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if it's modified stock cars, sport mods, sport compacts, whatever it is. Doug knows, and you know too, Jerry. You, as a promoter, that's a problem. Yeah. That's a big problem for promoting.
Yes,
it's a big problem for us as an association. So it's why we work as hard as we do to try to keep the race cars as affordable as we can, which is, in racing, is challenging.
Yeah,
I think compacts are a good example. Doug mentioned compact when he walked in the office. Where the hell did they all come from? Hell, we don't know. I mean, what?
Well,
creates
9 months
these-
ago, there was a Cavalier and a Neon brought together. And,
yeah. What creates these situations? I wish we could figure it out because if we could, we would obviously duplicate it in every class, and everybody would have more cars than they need.
yeah.
Racing is not in that situation at many facilities, but in some facilities it is in that situation where they can say, "Oh my God, we got 30 cars in one class." It's impressive. But Harlan's car counts have historically been pretty decent in the stock car division and sport mods and the other stuff that you're running have been pretty good, and especially so since you shortened the track. It's just
the other thing we did that I think helped us out. We went to a split tier payout. For right now, like 24 cars or above get paid a different payout.
Yeah.
And right now our sport compacts, them drivers are making $300 to win. And I think that makes a difference. Where normally in most tracks it's 100 to 150.
Mm-hmm.
right.
For a sport compact. So as long as we can keep 24 cars or above, we'll keep paying them, what they need, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And we do that with every class. Last year we were at 20 or above, and there's multiple nights that I paid out extra purse for those classes. So this year we just kind of went with 24 and above, and sport compacts naturally have hit it, and we've got a couple other classes that's very, very close. I think once we get through graduations and everybody kind of gets their life back on track, I think we'll probably do that in a couple classes every night. So
Yeah, and I think we've all in this group talked about it. I know we talked about it when I was over at Tiny Lynn last year.
yeah,
Those classes, like the compacts, the hobby stocks, when those numbers start to be where like there's five cars in a division, that's when I get nervous, because that's your beginner or your feeder class to your upper,
Correct.
transition as a sport compact guy, like a Colby Sabin is going to go from a sport compact to a hobby, or a hobby guy is going to go from a hobby to a stock car or a sport mod. And if we lose them down there and they don't move, that's what gets me nervous, is where is the next racer coming from?
It's the point of entry.
Absolutely.
That's the best terms, is the point of entry for what's the point of entry for a racer to expect to get involved in at any level, in any division. And the compacts have what I would define as the lowest point of entry. It's about the least expensive thing you can build that we sanction in IMCA.
Unless you go up to Wisconsin.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's what I was gonna mention that. Have you had a sport compact claim over there yet, Doug? Probably not.
No.
I was going to mention, I didn't want to jinx it, but
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's unique in that sense from a division standpoint where we have a whole car claim. But that's a whole other subject.
I had one last year and it was denied.
we had one up at 141 that was denied.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
But
That's
the
why
racer
Jim and I
did
talk
not-
about it.
The racer did not want to give up his $1,500 wrap. So we changed the rules Saturday
boy.
night in the sport compacts. We had a little meeting with the sport compact drivers, and we fixed that problem. From now on, the wrap goes with the driver.
Rip it right
It
off.
gets claimed. Yep.
Take the seat out.
Take
Goes with the
the wrap, seat
You
belts,
get to keep
transponders,
your
and
wrap
wrap.
off.
You get to keep your car. Yeah, it's like an engine claim. You get to keep your carburetor, your
When
headers,
your
you get to
seat,
keep all that.
transponders, belt, wraps. Problem solved.
I'd hope you get to keep your transponder. I could see it going with the seat.
Unless the
I mean, a guy bought a car, and a car has to have a seat in it.
Yeah, but they don't have the same size seat.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You are correct.
I don't know. I think most every track is running transponders anymore, aren't
Yeah,
they? You got
I
any
don't-
that isn't?
I don't know of any that aren't.
I can't think of any.
We put up a new scoreboard this spring, and the old one's laying out there and back. And
If
I think it
anybody's
might be
looking for a
like
scoreboard,
Yeah, I
all
think it
done.
might be like what Jerry runs over
All
there.
American? Yeah, you guys had one of them All Americans. Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you guys get?
We went with Westhold.
Oh, got one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it integrates with the system.
Yeah,
wireless
yeah.
and
You
all
don't
that,
have any separate box or nothing. A lot simpler to
pretty
operate.
nice.
Yeah, and the other thing that we did, I went ahead and bought an IDAC box, and we can read either my laps or
So you're doing the
Westhold.
hybrid.
Yeah.
So they've got a
Yeah. So whatever they show up with, and
yeah.
we've once in a while in some of our non-sanctioned classes, we will get a few of them.
Yeah, because we get and that hybrid, they call that the hybrid deal. I mean, it's not cheap.
No, it wasn't. Believe me.
I mean, it's come down from what it used to be like 5 or 6 years ago, but it's still, because we get asked, how come it's expensive to do it because
so you have the Westhold system.
So you can use the Westhold and the MyLabs.
Those are the two systems for people that know what we're talking about. Yeah. Those are the two systems, and a lot of racetracks run AMB, which is also formerly MyLabs. MyLabs AMB, which is usually the red transponder. And when we started running transponders, like at Super Nationals, Dakota Tour, Vegas, we were using MyLabs. Yeah. But since then, Westhold is I think it's a little bit less expensive of a system for the investment wise.
Oh, the Westhold is way less expensive.
For the track, and even I think the transponders are less expensive for the racer, but it's doing the same thing. But so there's a system that'll read both, an encoder essentially that's going to read both.
Yes.
But it's not made by MyLabs or Westhold?
No. Well, it's a MyLabs box. If you were strictly MyLabs, you would use that box.
Yeah, so if you because you're on Westhold.
Yes, our primary is Westhold.
It runs, it decodes the MyLabs over to Westhold and runs it through Westhold. But if you were primarily like a MyLabs, like say Boone,
right,
you would buy the decoder from Westhold and it runs through the AMB MyLabs system. Don't know how it works.
Well, when it gets to My Race Pass, it's all
the same.
Yeah, it's all the same.
It all works.
In the encoder, the decoders or encoders is where, the signal.
Yep.
That box that costs a lot.
Speaking of transponders, Brett, what will they be required to run at Vegas this year? Have you made that decision yet?
No, I have not, and I don't think I will.
Okay. Just curious.
Hand scoring. It'll be hand scoring.
Perhaps. Maybe they'll hand score there. Maybe that'll be the solution.
I didn't know what you were going to require at Vegas this year.
I'm not even going to go with that. I'm really going to talk about that, Jim.
Where did they put the transponders on the horses at the Derby? Was there
there a location? That was something that I wondered myself. They must have it on. Is it the bridle? Is that what
it has to be up? It's built into.
It's got to be someplace on their mouthpiece-ish headset, whatever they call that thing. Bridle, I think is what they call.
Well, but they wonder if it's like a harness or something. Like in soccer, they have like those. My wife saw it and thought it was a bra, but it's a transponder that tracks where they run around the field and they can see how many steps or how many miles they've ran.
They have to have something, obviously, on the horses too. But then they also go to the video a lot, like
that high speed high speed camera that's at the the finish line is.
They use photos to actually, because they last year the Derby was like 3 horses within like 6 inches of each other at the finish. But I wonder that myself. They do a lot of cool stuff there. Back to the Derby. I mean, they literally weigh the jockey. All the equipment that the jockey has, everything that goes on the horse, they weigh it before every single race. They bring the horses down into a paddock area right there, and then they go upstairs. And there's somewhere up there.
There's a tech barn.
Yep, some sort of a tech area up top where the jockeys all walk up there, and they weigh everything and break down, put it on the horse, and then off they go. And they do this every race because some of those jockeys race there's 14 races on Derby. They run every race, some of those jockeys. So they literally back and forth, up, down, weighing themselves, weighing their equipment, putting it back on a different horse, and off they go. To me, I like watching that kind of stuff. I was fascinated with that, and I was fascinated with the track farming.
Yeah.
Do
you realize at Park Jefferson, that building behind the clubhouse? So like it used to be the pit shack
where you sign in.
That was the jockey's
room.
The jockey's locker rooms back when it was a horse track.
Do they have a separate claim area at the Derby for the horses, or how does
they
that
have
work?
claim races? I mean, some of them are claim races. I don't think they call them the G1s. I think the big $1 million, $2 million, $5 million purse races that the Derby and some of that stuff pay, Preakness,
but
stuff like that.
They
have claims, but I think you can claim both. I think we were talking about this. I think you can claim. You have to claim before
you have to
they
claim
race.
Before the race, yes.
You put, they enter the horse, and once they enter the horse, it's claimable for like $25,000. There's different amounts.
There's different amounts because once that gate opens, and that horse, so like the gate opens,
The horse runs out and the horse dies 10 feet in.
It's still yours.
It's still your horse.
You've got glue and dog food right there.
So there are some differences between our claim rules and the claim rules in horse racing. But at the end of the day, the foundation of the claim in IMCA was somewhat built off of horse racing. Yeah. That's where it originated.
What I hear a lot from the people at the horse races, you can't buy a horse for that amount.
No,
no,
you can't. No, those. I've got a good friend, and she's got about 10 racehorses, and I'm like, I don't know how you do it.
I wonder if they have.
I think they said the Derby winner this year, that Sovereignty or whatever it was. I think they said that was a horse that was bought at $700,000 or $850,000 is what it was paid for that horse. And
but wasn't it like 2 or 3 years ago at the Derby? It was a claim horse that won it.
Yeah, there was a couple where they had like a $50,000 horse or a $25,000 horse. It's very rare.
It was 2 years ago. It was a claim horse.
But like the favorite the Derby and this week again is that journalism horse, and I think that they said they paid like $1.2 or $1.4 million for that horse.
Wow.
Thought race cars were expensive.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
And them horses eat a lot too.
Something.
And you got to pay a trainer.
Yeah, I can't
Or
imagine.
excuse me, trainers, because that trainer brings about 10 people with him. It's crazy.
You know, years ago, I used to be in the farm equipment business, and we was at a meeting one time, and I got set with a couple guys that had a Ford dealership in the Boot Hill of Missouri down there, and they sold some land for a horse track. And he told me, he says, if you ever want to come down, let me know, because they have 2 programs. One for the general people, one for like the owners and everything. He says, I can guarantee you won't go home broke.
Yeah, once you find out who has the biggest stable bill.
Yes, and so when you go to bet on the horses, sometimes
I told
it's kind of who you know.
Weeks ago.
Yeah, so
Jim and I had this conversation.
Yep. Find out who has the biggest stable bill at the end of the year. They're going to win a race.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Jim gave me like all these picks for who to pick in these races for the Oaks and for the Derby for 2 days. So I was there for 2 days. So there's 27 races, and so I had this list. I had it on my phone. I probably still have it on my phone. I know I have it still on my phone. What I'm supposed to bet on what horses in each race on each day, right? So I'm following this thing by the T the first day. I don't think I won a single race following those notes. The next day it started off and right off of the same thing. I think the first 2 or 3 races didn't win a single one. I just said, I'm not doing this no more. The next race that I didn't bet on using the numbers that Jim gave me was the exact finish of the race, the horses that he gave me. And then he texted me, hey, did you bet on that? I'm
$33 to win.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this or not, but
sometimes it's just not meant to be.
Jim's betting advice and his work style it's about the same. It works about 3% of the time.
Yeah.
But when it works, Jerry.
Yeah. Well, that $33 would have been you could have bought like 2 beers for $33. You said 27 races in 2 days. It's crazy that some racetracks you go to run 27 heat races in a night.
Right. Yeah, it was 13 races one day. Every 35 to 40 minutes, they ran a horse race. And you would think that would be boring.
I've been to racetracks that run
really
heat races every 35 to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. I think it would be fun if we could bet on auto racing. I don't know
why we have.
I don't know.
I mean, you can. I mean, like the Lucas Oil and the Owl. You can.
I see
they've
do
got
that,
the dirt draft
they've
and
tried
stuff.
to do that. I don't know. I haven't heard much about it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's not like you can go to a bookie in Vegas and say I want to bet on the Super Nationals.
I don't know if it'll ever get to that point in auto racing.
I got a guy that'll take bets on races.
I bet you do.
Yeah.
Jim's got a guy that'll take a bet on anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would make it interesting, especially if we can have final say in the tech area, who wins and who loses.
But you can wait like a half hour,
then
or
we'd
45
be
minutes.
Then we'd be like the NFL.
Right.
Yeah. Eldon wouldn't go for that.
Eldon is Doug's tech guy. Yes. For those that don't know who Eldon is.
Nope, he's not going for that.
You can't water your car in the tech area.
That's exactly right. I don't know what would happen if you did, but
Well, I do. You're disqualified.
well,
Makes a mess.
Yeah, we're not going down that road, I guess, with Eldon. But,
We're gonna steer clear of that one.
yeah.
What else you want to talk about?
We got some races coming up.
We do.
There is.
Yeah.
Maybe Ben can tell us about them races that are coming up. He's been pretty
Ben,
quiet.
you know of any?
Oh man, there's loads. I mean, Memorial Day weekend, like a week. Well, what's today? Thursday. Central California Clash starts, kicks off at Bakersfield Speedway at Kevin Harvick's Kern County Raceway, and then Friday will be Santa Maria. Both those tracks have never been on this tour before, and last year the tour was kind of like a traditional series spread out throughout the calendar year. This is back to consecutive days of racing.
The original
Saturday,
way they
go
had
to-
that
That's how
first
they
year.
used to do it.
Yeah, the first year they did that.
Then Saturday they go to Merced Speedway, and then they close it up in wine country at Petaluma Speedway. So that's going to be super cool. Some really good racetracks, some really good drivers, and a really good time. Covers a lot of ground, hundreds of miles, but really, really fun.
California
I like to
is
call
big.
that the Doug Lockwood Tour.
Yeah, California is big. I've done that. I think it was the first year of the tour, second year. I can't remember. They all run together. I went out there for half the tour with my wife, and we did the southern half of the tour, and then Dave flew out and did the northern half of the tour. California's a big state.
Isn't that Santa
Yeah.
Maria
And
track?
they got
Isn't that
traffic out
Rico
there,
Abreu's home track?
Santa Maria is down kind of by, I would say it's probably closer to L.A.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah.
Abreu and Larson and some of those guys, I think they're up around, aren't they up around Chico, Jim?
Yeah, they could. Yeah, they're
I
with
think
Chico. Area.
Marysville is
Marysville.
obviously the track. I think
At-
Larson. Yeah, Marysville. No, he owns Silver
Silver
Dollar.
Dollars.
Chico.
Yeah, Silver
Yeah,
Dollar.
Chico.
Yeah.
Chico. Yep.
Yeah, those guys are like up on wine country. Marysville is
Yeah.
up in that area. Chico. There's a handful of racetracks up there that some of them we do a lot of sanctioning at, some of them we just do a little bit.
Yeah, Abreu's dad at one point operated Calistoga Speedway,
Okay.
which we had some races with at one point in time. So, yeah, you talk about that tour. It started in Bakersfield and ended at Chico. That's pretty much from the southern part of the San Joaquin Valley to almost the as north as you can get of the Sacramento Valley, and that's just a huge swath of country.
It is. It's
That's
a drive.
a lot of territory to cover over. Yeah.
Speaking of territory to cover, we're going to go from Ardmore to Waco on the All-Star Shootout.
How many
coming
years
up,
have we been
starting-
doing that?
Oh my God,
That's been going a while.
6 maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Marcus is going to take over a little bit of the, I don't know, decision-making process, I guess. We got Shelby.
Well, he's doing everything behind the scenes, rounding up sponsors.
Gotcha. Okay.
Going to handle the T-shirts, the trophies.
We talked a
you know,
little
we
bit
do-
about that in an earlier
Yeah.
podcast, too.
Yeah, Nikki Webb had kind of done a lot of that stuff in the past.
Yeah.
And, she's got a lot of other projects going right now. And
Like being
Marcus
a grandma.
was it was perfect, right up his alley. I mean, he's put together the Baby Blue race out there that I think finished up last week
Yes.
at Hot Speedway in Waco. And so, yeah, I think that all worked out pretty good. And I think from that standpoint, it's going to be good. I know I'm waiting to see a story from Ben. I think we're going to have something coming up and get the, where we're at for pre-registers. But it's always been a great tour. And it's, I think like I said, we're going to go Wednesday at Southern Oklahoma, Ardmore, Thursday, Grayson County, Friday, Waco, Hot Speedway, and Saturday ended up at KSP. KSP had, for a weekly show last week, had 34 modifieds. So, I mean, it should be a great series. They had 30 plus stock cars down in Waco at Heart of Texas. So,
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to good car counts.
KSP, continues to lead the car count pack in the South Central region for us. It has for many years. But Rob's had some really good car counts over at Abilene.
Yeah.
They've had some great stuff down at Heart of Texas and Cotton Bowl and Grayson County and Southern Oklahoma and Ardmore. I mean, there's been some really good numbers and some really good races and some really good reports from the track promoters on how their facilities are doing, which is always positive for us. Those are the things behind the scenes that, we like to see big car counts, but that doesn't always tell the story. Some racetracks will get, what I would consider to be just kind of like an average car count. Even sometimes on the low end, where I would go, is there a problem? And but they get 1,500, 1,200 people in the grandstands. They really don't care if they have 150 cars in their pits. It's just not how they operate. So it's interesting. And no two racetracks are the same, and no two regions of the country are the same. And Memorial Day weekend is historically, when pretty much everybody across the United States is pretty much running. Our northern racetracks are all racing. Everything out on the, on the East Coast that we do with the Race Saver stuff and everything, they're all pretty much racing. And obviously all the southern tracks are racing. Heck, and in some instances, you start rolling into June, and some of our southern racetracks, like out in the Phoenix area and places like that,
they're closing for the summer.
They're quit racing, at least for a couple of months, because it's too hot.
Summer break off.
Yeah.
We got anniversary race coming up.
Yep.
Races, I should say.
Yeah, big series that weekend.
Yeah, Marshalltown, Boone, and Vinton here locally. 4,600 to win IMCA modifieds, 2,000 to win sport mods. Hasn't raced much here in town in Vinton. Yep, hasn't raced.
Yeah, we're $2,000 to win, and $2,000 for mods, and $1,000 to win at Marshalltown and Boone.
Yep.
So some good money on the line that weekend.
There is
for just up and down Highway 30.
Right. Yep.
I think we got the whole hog at Stewart, which I think details will be announced today. So we got that deal coming up. Sprint car series down in Texas running at the same time as the All-Star Shootout.
And the Corn Belt Clash.
Oh, yeah, we got Mod Lights.
For Mod Lights. I don't want to forget the Mod Light guys.
That'll be Friday at Marshalltown, Saturday Boone, Sunday Boone. Stewart.
500 to win, I think, is what they're paying on those.
Yeah, 500 to win and 100 to start. And I just thought Jimmy May was texting today. There's guys already, they're.
He's got some bonus. He's got some bonus money in place for like top 20 in points or the two or something like that, doesn't he?
Yeah, there is actually it's actually
the
top 20 is getting a bunch of stuff. There's some other contingency prizes. There's, Jimmy's went to work on this Corn Belt Clash deal, and talking to him today, I think we're going to see, 7 or 8 different states of mod light racers in town that weekend.
I think about 300 mod lights.
I'd be okay with
that. At the end of the day, I mean, there's promoters like Doug all across the United States that are putting up some pretty good money, special events, weekly shows, and everything, running some very committed guest specials. So, it takes all of that for this association to make sense, and we're very appreciative of that and do the best we can. I encourage any racer that's listening that is asking about, where are these specials at or where can they find them, to always go to our website. You can always send us emails at raceimca@imca.com. We'll help with schedules if people have specific questions, but that's just not for special events, but for rules and some of the other things that I think people get accustomed to contacting us about.
I did have somebody text me the other day and said, "Hey, is there a place I can go and I can find like all the tracks in Iowa, what their schedule is, because I'm going to come in and I just want to go on a bender of racing. Is there any just place I can go?" And I just was like, "Hang on, here comes the smart ass. There's an app, MRP." He goes, "Why did I know you were going to say that?" God, that was okay. I'm looking, and it was just, but that's tools, like the racetrack websites or Facebook, but MRP. You can find anything you want. Yeah, I would have to say 99% of the IMCA sanctioned tracks are on it, so you can always right. It's right here.
MRP is one of those. It's a very useful
Eagle's
tool.
on it this year.
Yes, Eagle did finally get on.
It's a very useful tool.
Yes.
But it's also one of those tools that, from my standpoint, if I use it obviously for all kinds of reasons, not to where I'm going to go or anything like that, just for what's going on. But the one thing that this is my sanctioning body personality coming out. One of the things that bothers me about, and take no offense to this, Doug or Jerry, one of the things that bothers me is the racetracks that don't necessarily identify their events or their divisions correctly. I always think it's good to put IMCA, you were running IMCA mods or IMCA stock cars or whatever it is, to identify the divisions as such, instead of just saying stock cars, instead of just saying hobby stocks. When you put IMCA in there, the guys who are IMCA guys who are going to want to go to IMCA shows, they can at least feel comfortable that that is an IMCA show. If they don't put that, they don't necessarily know. Then it sometimes results in just a series of more questions. There
are sometimes tracks that put that on there when they're not, though. Too.
That was the other thing I was going to bring up. We at times have to deal with the facilities that say that they're IMCA sanctioned or they're running IMCA modifieds and they don't really identify it as a non-sanctioned event. And so racers get confused. They'll call us and say, hey, is that track really running IMCA? And no, it's not. But for the most part, we like to see, if you're running a show, and you guys do a good job of it. There's racetracks that do a very good job of it, of identifying your gate times, your admissions, your divisions, how many laps you're doing. There's some really good stuff on
it. It's a perfect tool for that.
So many people are relying on your order. I mean, because I don't print lineups, I don't print schedule of events, I don't anything anymore. Because everybody just they're standing there in the pits looking at it.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be standing at the driver's meeting and, hey, everything's on MRP, and you watch them grab their phones and look, hey, what's there is there. And, that description line, I think, you can put all that stuff, what you charge, your order of events, there's just so much
limitless too, isn't it?
There is only so many characters you can use.
And you must use every one of them because you're always thorough with Marshalltown stuff. I mean,
I think, it comes in, and Doug can second this, the more transparent you are with what you're doing, the racer, A, knows what's going on, and B, I think that, they're like, hey, they're being honest with us. This is where I'm going to come race. I know that when I get, this is when everything, and this is how it happens. And I think some of that is just keeping that open line of information out there.
It's back to conveniences. Yep. From start to finish, MRP is a really good source for anybody that doesn't have it on their phone, but you're a race fan, you really should have it, because from start to finish, especially facilities using live timing and scoring, I mean, there's just all kinds of things from lineups to live racing on the app. I mean, you can get it all through MRP. It's very, very good for that. And it's just another one of those conveniences. Can you imagine if you go back to like when any of us started in this industry, none of these things existed. We didn't have live timing and scoring. We didn't use transponders. We didn't have receivers. There's a lot of things
with a lineup board.
Write it down and.
Right. Yeah, what the racers are using on the racetrack, racing has evolved quite a bit over the last
And the tracks that are keeping up with it, like we talked about with Doug, are the ones that are successful. One thing I saw on my travels last weekend, in fact, Nate, if you could put that up on the screen for us real quick. I sent Nate a picture of something that right there, 1 minute, 10 seconds. Now, that's not how long Jerry lasts.
That's not the date. This was January 10th, 2015.
No.
That would have been a marathon for Jim in the bed.
This is, I was at 141 Saturday night. Second lap of the modified feature, so we had a full field out there. A car lost its drive shaft. This is how long it took from the very first time the yellow light came on to the time they went green with a full field of cars. 1 minute and 10 seconds.
Pretty fast. With some of the stuff that we're using, we would never be able to do that without the equipment that we're using these days to get lined up that quick.
In that minute and 10 seconds, I mean, that's lining the cars up.
Yeah.
That's getting that car off the racetrack. And
using all those tools we
yeah.
talked about.
And, I mean, the tow crew at 141, I mean, they got the old, the window lick. It's window licker towing.
I like it.
And
making a murderers up there too, isn't it?
No, that's right across. That's right across 3 miles towards the lake. But no, the old window lickers up there. I mean, they build everything from tow trucks to push trucks to fire trucks to
Are they like the Boone Reekers?
The
window lickers, the Boone Reekers.
I still have my purple Reeker shirt.
You got your Boone Reeker T-shirt.
Wear that sometime.
But yeah, I mean, they tow like it. They tow for Tracy at Luxembourg. They do 141. Yeah. They'll go out and do some other.
Their tow trucks look like vans.
They are, because that's what they do. They take a van, a panel van like the IMCA TV van. They cut it off right behind the rear door.
Crazy.
It's got the dual wheels. They build build a winch on it, and I mean,
once again, that's how they could run 200 plus cars, starting at 6 o'clock and being done before 10 o'clock. At 141 is something like that. Like Jerry said, that's not only to line the cars up, but to clean the track up with the wreck and everything. 1 minute, 10 seconds.
I mean, that probably didn't give Tracy enough time to have a cigarette.
Correct.
No. And it's that tower up at 141 is probably one of my favorite towers in the country to go up to. It can be interesting.
Yes, it can.
What else?
To say the least.
Oh, hey,
Anything else?
Yes, I do.
Let's wrap it up. Doug probably wants to get on his.
Yes, but I do want to acknowledge and a congratulations. 2 things.
Hall of Famer.
Dan Ingledow, 25 years at IMCA.
Yes, today is Dan's 25th
Yep. So congratulations to him, and we now have a Hall of Famer. Ryan Clark
HOF.
is going to be into the Independence Motor Speedway Hall of Fame, and it's well-deserved. You spent so many years up there and with your stats and announcing and scoring and committing, and it's great that they are putting you in there. I'm so proud of you,
What's even
friend.
more impressive, Ryan was a first ballot selection.
Wow.
Have I been retired long enough to come up there? No, it's a great honor. I mean,
He got in on his first time.
unlike Pete Rose.
I was going to make a Pete Rose comment, but
But no, up there, it's Hall of Fame night's always a special night at any racetrack. But if it's at a track that you grow up at and that you spend all your time at, you get to know people. These people become your family, and it's just so cool to be able to be celebrated with your idols as a kid. It's going to be a great night next month, June 14th.
yeah. Well, congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
He did ask for a +1 on his post, and I said I was busy that night because I can't find anybody to fill in for me because he's my fill-in. But no, that's pretty awesome. That is.
Is it kind of like the NFL? Do you get a blazer when they put you in?
I don't know.
You
I can get a
blazer.
plaque. I think it's a plaque. Something like that.
Get your picture in the paper.
Don't know about that.
You'd be on the cover of the Rolling Stone.
That's right.
Buy 5 copies for your mother.
Front page of Hawkeye Racing.
We are all right. We are all getting old. That's what I'm concluding. Oh my gosh. Ryan's in the Hall of Fame in Independence.
I know.
Crazy.
I mean, I probably will end up in about 1,700 Hall of Shames, but
You already are.
Jerry, you're
I am?
in about
We've already formed a
2,500
list.
All his shames.
Yeah, we started Doom Scroll. We invited Chris to Doom Scroll just because of you, Jerry. You're just
you got to meet Chris Tuesday night.
Was he there?
Yes. Old Chris was there. Him and Brett were. I think there was a picture of me and Brett standing in the infield. I don't know if you loaded that, Nate, but that Chris took that we were standing there. But yeah, you guys had a nice little chat. There's me and you in the tech area. You with your muffs on, me with my 1,700 radios.
Yeah, I was just watching the races.
Yeah.
Kirk was there. Joe was there. I was there.
Yeah, there was a lot of everybody there.
Matt, the tech guy there, does a great job.
Yeah.
I go to places like your place. Jerry.
Mod
I don't
Light
really.
Mac.
I always call him.
Mod Light Matt.
I call him Mod Light Matt. I don't know. I call him that. I don't know. I hope he don't get upset by it. That's how I met Matt, the tech guy in Marshalltown.
He raced him.
Yeah, him and his dad, Larry Sorn, they raced Mod Lights for years, dwarf cars for years.
Yep, he's one of those original Mod Light guys. Is the way I kind of look at him. But he's a great tech guy.
Does a great job for us.
He helps out
Well,
over at Boone.
he's been going to Harlan.
Yeah, he does. He comes down, not
So
every
he was
week,
over there.
but he's maybe once or twice a month. It depends on his schedule.
He's got a great personality too. He's
he was in
approachable.
Stewart
He's
last
cool.
night.
He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You say that it was funny. We mentioned that. Matt told me, he said, I was over at Harlan last weekend. And I said, yeah. He goes, I had some late model guy who was madder than shit at me.
Well, that does happen.
He was telling me I didn't know what I was doing and I need to learn the rules. And I'm like,
Who'd you piss off now, Doug?
I was thinking, who?
I don't honestly know. I wasn't aware of that.
He doesn't know the late model guys well enough to know who exactly it was. But I'm like, so who was it?
Yeah,
It's
what
like,
was the
I
car
don't know,
number?
but man, he was mad.
Yeah, that was like,
Anybody
you
got any guesses who it might have been?
And, you know.
No.
I'm not even going to go there.
Yeah.
There could be a whole list of names on that type of a deal. So.
But you alluded to Brett. You made the comment. Tuesday at Marshalltown we had super late models, and then of course they were, like you said, the support division for the IMCA classes. But the first year we ran that race, the first hauler into the gate, the night before sitting there was Hudson O'Neill, and he jumps out of the truck and he says, "Hey, you running them street stocks here?" And I go, "Yes, we have IMCA stock cars." He goes, "That's why I'm here. We want them." He goes, "Those things, they are the best. They're the best class in the country." He said, I can't wait to see him in person." And that's a guy that races, races the toppest of the cream of the crop of late models, but he wants to watch IMCA stock cars. And that's a testament of what we put out.
I made the running joke. I said it all night on Tuesday night that I think there was more Super Nationals champions at Marshalltown than there was at the Super Nationals.
Yeah, there was.
Super Nationals champions that was at the Super Nationals. Yeah. I mean, there was a
lot
lot
of late
of
model race
very, 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 very good racers at Marshalltown on Tuesday. That was multiple divisions. That was
well,
you can say that about the modified class or about the stock car class, but it originated. You had Ricky Thornton.
Ethan
pitted right beside Ethan Dodson racing super late models.
Dylan Thornton.
He had Tim Ward was in his late model.
Yep.
You had Tom Berry was there racing a mod. Kelly, there was Logan Anderson. Just the list of Super Nationals guys, champions. Tuesday night at Marshalltown was quite long.
Dallin was there.
Yeah, right.
Jimmy. In a stock car, he won the stock cars, but of course a modified Super Nationals champion. It was, we talked about it in the infield. You're like, man.
There's a lot of really good racers that turn laps in IMCA, and it's good to see. And again, not everybody races IMCA for a lifetime. You know what I mean? They just don't, for whatever reason. But the guys who go on and have success in other divisions that race in super late models and stuff like that, to me, I think that good for them. I think we all as race fans and people that work in the industry like to see that, because we see them turn laps in IMCA. We deal with them. Like Thornton is a really good example. When he was running modifieds, he didn't show up in a double stacker hauler. He showed up in some very moderate tow vehicles. He was scrapping to try to.
Yeah, he had a pickup in a 28-foot trailer.
And he goes up on the Dakota Tour and wins every race up there, whatever it was that year, almost. And then the running joke with me is I don't know how many ignition boxes I took of Ricky Thornton's over the years. I got tired of taking them. I got to the point to where I got tired of buying new ones and replacing them. I just take Ricky Thornton's box and give it to the next guy I traded with. And if he didn't go fast, I'm like, well, that was his own fault. It went fast in the last car it came out of. You know what I mean?
I was always like back in the old claim days, somebody, I'm buying that guy's in. It was always if you raced like at Eldora on a Sunday night, you wanted Bobby Griner's engine. And
you didn't get Bobby Griner's talent, though, did you?
No, you did not get. Yeah, you didn't get Bobby Griner's talent.
Well, somebody's got Ricky Thornton's ignition boxes. There's a couple of them in race cars, more than likely, floating around the modified division that were swapped out. Because everybody's he's got traction control this or whatever. And again, we tech the crap out of our cars in IMCA. I think that's kind of what we're known for. But it's just good to see guys that make the jump and go to something and have aspirations of being professional race car drivers.
Yeah, Colin Weinberger was there in a late model.
I had to look on MRP. That's another good thing MRP is for. I'm like, is that Colin Weinberger?
Yeah. He come rolling in, and
he's
I'm like,
a long ways from home.
I'm like, what do you, but then, you take a look at it. Like a guy like Colin, like Ricky, like Ethan, Tim Ward, whether it's Lucas Oil or World Outlaws or the other series, they've raced at those tracks. Like they've raced at a Marshalltown, they've raced at a Harlan in a mod or in something. So they're familiar to what that place is. So they enjoy it, and it also brings, that IMCA fan of Ricky Thornton or an Ethan Dotson or a Dylan Thornton or a Dallin Murdy or Tim Ward, Tom Berry. Now that brings them in because they watch him in modified. So now they see he's at Harlan for the Lucas Oil deal. Guess what? They're going to go watch him in a late model. So it keeps that fan base that follows him in a modified. No, they're going to race late model. It brings him in to watch him there too, and it's just full circle.
So when's your Lucas Oil race at Harlan?
The 15th of July.
15th of
It's
July.
on Tuesday.
I had friends that went over from clear over here in Eastern Iowa and went all over to Harlan last year for the Lucas Oil race and said it was just a fantastic show.
Yeah, it was a good show.
There were so many people that were hanging from the rafters in the grandstands is what we hear.
It was full.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We hope you have that success with this year's event too, because That was a good show you had on Tuesday.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm particular on IMCA. I bleed IMCA, but I'm telling you, that super late model race was badass.
Well, that's what you said. You do. We got.
I like racing just like the next guy, and I'll give credit where credit is due. That was a race worth watching.
Yeah,
it's good.
I think if it wouldn't have been for the cautions at the end, it would have been a little different. But that's what
made it.
That's what made that race.
Bobby Pierce did some slide job on whoever the hell it was.
He went off top of 1 and 2. Laid it off there.
And I was in the infield. I hear the people screaming. I had a headset on, and the cars were racing, and I could hear the fans screaming in the grandstands when that happened. I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, they were vocal.
Yeah,
they were very vocal.
So, it's good. We love passionate race fans.
Yeah, for those of you who want to catch late models and modify in IMCA classes, Eagle this weekend. What do you got tonight? Thursday.
Yep, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yep. They have a Lucas show with IMCA stock cars. Tomorrow night it's a Lucas show with modifieds, and Saturday night it's a Lucas show 50,000 to win with Race Saver sprint cars.
3 great nights of racing over at Eagle, obviously.
That's going to be fun to watch them at Eagle too.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap it up.
Yep.
Doug's got to get home.
He's got to get back to work.
That's right. Got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't.
He does. Yeah, he doesn't get this week.
He's been home already.
Yeah, he didn't get this week off like I do. But yeah, there's always something to do. That's probably great.
We do appreciate you coming, Doug.
Yeah, Doug.
Well, thank you for inviting. So
don't forget. Hey, don't forget what
You're
you
always
came for
welcome.
your computer.
I'm not. Believe me.
Yeah, don't forget that on your way out.
Yeah.
I can see you getting to like Ames. Oh, I forgot what I went there for.
No, I'm not going to forget that because for me it's 2.5 hour drive from where I live.
Yep.
So
because you're in Lytton or Sac City?
Lytton is where I actually live.
Because I mean, it's what, an hour and 10 back and forth or one way to Harlan for you?
About an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a haul.
That's a long
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And I drive it 5-6 days a week.
Oh, I know. Are you like me? Do you
dedication.
leave like your work truck at the racetrack and then have a beater that you can
No,
drive back and forth to get good gas mileage?
My beater I wrecked last summer, so I had to get something else, but it don't take long to put miles on it.
Both ways.
Takes a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah. I usually get my Lamborghinis out and take off. So, yeah, it's going to be a great weekend for racing. Memorial Day weekend's coming up. We'll probably have another podcast before then, maybe, possibly. We'll see what everybody's schedules are. All that great stuff. Are we done? Do you want to be done?
Yeah.
All right.
Wrap it up.
Wrap this thing up. Hey, remember, if you can't make it out and support a local IMCA racing in your region, you can also get those tracks that are on IMCA TV. And maybe you kind of forgot to go and you forgot to buy the race that night. $24.99. Get that replay pass. And you can go back and watch for 30 days everything from like Harlan.
Right.
And all the
Shelby
great
County.
races. Shelby County Speedway.
He's here to
all
get his
that.
equipment, so he's got the best stream he can get.
Exactly. He's going to have multi-cameras by its time. Probably like 1,700 cameras.
No.
Manned by AI. Speaking of AI, we're going to have to AI out of this. So, hey, enjoy some great IMCA racing. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next episode.